a nice drink. Well, they always say, don't they, two sorts of people in the world, those who think of a glass as being half full, and others say it's half empty. Well, this is one of those funny things where it's both the ways. Look at this. It's half empty that way, there it says it on it. It's also the same glass, just turn it round, half full. So how can that be? Well, let's put some liquid inside and see what happens. Here's some water. Oh, well, I see, just the top half of the glass goes. Look at that. So is that half empty or is it half full? You've got to judge it depending on whether you're optimist or pessimist, I suppose. Extraordinary idea, isn't it? So I've been looking through my collection at half things which show half. And there's quite a number of them, and I haven't got half the collection, I've got the whole of my collection of half toys. Well, half novelties, that's just one of them. And these ones are all to do with drinks, these first few. For instance, this is probably the first one I ever came across about 50 years ago. It's a teacup. It's half a cup of tea. Well, that's what you asked for, so you're going to get half a cup of tea. No, it's not that way, it's that way. Oh, this is half a cup of tea. Nice one, a nice take. It does actually hold a proper half amount of liquid in it, but there we are. But it's a bit of fun. So that was 1970s, I think it was. Very recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've come across another version of this with the same idea, a full-looking mug. It's not a cup, it's really a mug. This is only half, although it doesn't say so, but it's got something else about it. Look at that. Extraordinary. It's a television set with a black, well, it's been turned off, I suppose. But apparently you've got to put something warm inside it. So let's see what happens when I do that. I'll put it on the table and I'll put some hot water, as if it's hot tea, into it, and we'll see what happens. There's Thermochromic Ink, they call it, which responds to heat. And gradually it'll start to move down. Just see for myself what's actually happening. Oh yes, it's going very quickly. Look at this, just watch it. So as the heat gets to it, it makes the thermochromic paint or ink, which is a black colour, transparent or clear, and then you can see what the printing is underneath, which is not thermochromic, it's ordinary printed ink. But it reveals it. And when you then tilt that out and put some cold water in, the black will come down again and the television will switch itself off. So yes, good enough. If that was tea in there, I could drink it as a hot cup of tea and see the little performance. A nice one. Here's a very interesting item which I picked up a few years ago. It's a teaspoon, quite a pretty one actually, look. But everything's got to be done by halves, so where's the half here? Well, half is when you turn it round like this. Oh my goodness, exactly half a teaspoon. Even got a wall here, so you could actually put in a half measure of sugar when someone says, oh, only half a spoon please. So you say, okay, I'll do a whole spoon, cover it over, but it's only half a spoon size. So it's a nice one to play lots of little jokes with. Actually made by a company in North England, that one. And here's another very quaint one. It's looks like an ordinary teapot, very foreshortened, but it's half a teapot because although it hasn't been cut down this way, which is what the cups were done, it's been cut down across this way. That's much too short to give people a cup of tea with a friend. It's only for one person. It does actually say on it, teapot for one. It's only big enough to hold enough for a single cup of tea. So in that sense, it's a half jug, but it's been cut that way and not lengthways. Oh well, there we are. So those are all drinking ones. Then there's some very strange things being produced over the years which are not for drinking but just for playing with. For instance, this one here, which I came across many years ago, was an ordinary yo-yo which fell to pieces, but very serendipitously, because when I'd yo-yoed it, first of all just like this, and by mistake I hit the ground, this bit fell off. I thought, oh dear, I've only got half a yo-yo, that won't go. But actually it does. It has what's called dynamic stability. So once it's spinning, it actually gets quite stable and performs just like a yo-yo. Extraordinary, but magic. But it has to turn at the same time. It's got a precess. So we have to call that not a yo-yo, but a yo. There we go. Even more extraordinary is this thing here, which looking on the table, is a padlock. This is a danlock by a lovely man in Israel who invented this many years ago, and it's quite the best padlock puzzle I've ever seen because it incorporates half a key. He purposely cuts one of the keys in half and makes a trick out of it, and a very, very clever one too. It's quite easy to open, which I'll show you, but it's much, much harder to close. So to open it, you have to get the half key, this piece here and put it in the right way round and push it in. Oh dear, will you ever get it out again? Well, I won't show you how to do it, but in the second half of the trick you do actually get to it and you manage to do it. So you then have to put the other bit of the key in there. You've got to hold it at a certain angle, anyway, like that. Pull it open and you're away. And you've got lots more to do before you can disassemble it. So you've done it, it looks as though you've done it, but actually you've got to get a little bit out there, you've got to put this back, you find it won't work. It's a very much, it looks as though you're halfway there, you're not, you're about a tenth of the way there, because the really tricky parts are now to come, to put it back to how it was originally. All done with the half key, the other half's in there. There's quite a number of things in the paper industry which involves half. For instance, this is half a birthday card. Can't be sent in half an envelope, I'm afraid, but it says it's 50% off, and of course it's a joke item, so here's the joke. You open it up, only half a card, goodness me. If I was using this, I'd put a bit of paper here, put it flat on the table and sign it across the join, and then when I'd taken the bit of paper away, you'd have only half my message. Have a nice day, or love from Tim, or whatever it was I was saying. You could have a bit of fun with that. You close it up and send it to the person in a full-size envelope with a full-size stamp, I'm afraid. But it's a nice idea. And then playing cards, I came across, out of the 50 or so playing cards I come across, there's a couple of half ideas there, or half things. This, for instance, is one of a set of 3 magician's cards, which are jokes. One was the 15 of hearts when you turned it around, the other one was the 13 of spades. This one is the 3.5 of clubs. If you're having a serious card game, you know, or whist or bridge or canasta, you could introduce that quietly and people will have a good laugh at it because it's such a ridiculous idea. And then there's a whole deck here which I'm actually a little bit puzzled by because I've had it for a long time, but each of the cards has actually 2 different values on them. There's 2 half cards, so half of that is the ace of spades and half of it is the 3 of clubs. And then if I do a little meld of the pieces, you open up this way like this, I think it is. You open like that, that's right. And then you have all the values of the spades there, but the other halves are all hidden, but except you can read them. It's not a magician's trick there, because you're actually told what the other half of the card is. But there's some very clever game involved in it, which sometime I've got to dig out and find out what the instructions are. I did notice, though, to my interest, that the twos, the deuces of each of these 4 suits was the same value both sides actually, but all the others are different. Every other one you have is that value and then that value is different. So, and there's some game you produce with this complete deck. It's got even the jokers at the back, which aren't particularly spectacular, but all those are really 2 halves of a deck of cards. 2 halves making 2 different card games or whatever. Very interesting. Then there's a nice cartoon that a friend of mine sent me, which I did like this. I'll put my finger over the punchline so you can't see it just yet, but it was a picture taken in a breaker's yard where they're breaking apart old cars, battered cars, cars that have been caught in accidents and can no longer be repaired, and taking them apart for their parts. This particular car has been cut right down the middle, not down the centre from front to back, but crossways. And someone's done a witty little caption on it which reads, half price. Of course, you only get half a car. If you want the whole car, you've got to pay the full price. Very nice. Nice joke. I came across a half umbrella once at a trade fair. I mean, they'd opened it up, they then pinned it, because it's all going to collapse otherwise, against the wall, and it was something, they were selling umbrellas, but what a bizarre idea to have an umbrella which is only half. Well, that's what this is. I didn't realise until I looked at it more carefully. They called it a fanbrella, which I don't know what that means, but you'll see what I mean. It looks like a whole umbrella, but my golly, it's not. This is only half an umbrella. It's a bit tricky to put together as well. Let me show you what I do. I've got to lift this up. That snaps down, bump. Now here's the bump. Instead of having the pole here where you hold it and protect both your shoulders, you have to hold it like this. It's telescopic. When I'm lifting it up, this is only going to protect half of me, isn't it? This right hand shoulder's fine, the right hip's fine, the right shoe's nice and dry. The left, I'm afraid, is all exposed to the heavy elements, and to get soaking wet shoe, soaking wet shoulders, my soaking wet left ear, all because because the pole's in the bizarre place, not there in the middle, but across there. So I'm calling that a half brolly, would you say? Very strange. Let me just dismantle it again, taking up so much space. I must find out from somebody what the idea of it is. I suppose perhaps you just hold it at a funny angle and then you have someone beside you, I don't know. So, wonderful stuff. Okay. So there's a lot of the stuff, I think there's probably going to be a few more when I search through, but this is a good way of starting with halves. Incidentally, when I was a small child, my dad introduced me to the idea of a half by making a witty remark, which I never could fathom out when I was a kid. He just said, mournfully, "Oh, I've only got half a shirt to my back." I thought, poor old man. And I thought, what does he mean by that? And later on I learned that what he meant was, because I've got the other half in front, of course, and all of you have got half on the back and half on the front. So try and sound mournful when you say, I've only got half a shirt on my back. Oh well, time to finish. That's half a mouthful. Cheers.